If we develop our psychic ability, we are going to be a power in the universe because we can see way into the future, anywhere in space. That's why our friends want us out there and our enemies don't want us off this planet.
You have experienced so much, both in the world of remote viewing. You are the inspiration for The Men Who Stared at Goats, an incredible George Clooney movie about a psychic spy stopping a goat's heart. So you must have had a very high clearance.
Oh yeah, I had one of the highest clearances, not only for the remote viewing, but for other stuff that will never be talked about.
You remote viewed alien bases.
The 4 major alien bases on the Earth, one in Mount Hayes, Alaska, Mount Zeal in Australia.
Secret mountain near Bradshaw Ranch in Sedona, Arizona. Mount Inyangani is another alien base. Have you ever seen humans and aliens working side by side in a non-remote viewing capacity?
Yeah, one of the, what they call the insectoids.
Wow.
It was sitting in a row of humans that were at the positions working some equipment.
Whoa. You've seen a UFO inside a hangar.
That's where I came across this control panel, and that's when I said, hey, that's out of a UFO.
So how do you fly a UFO?
An impression of a hand on it, where you put your finger over the hole, controls the ship. The alien was there. He took me up front. He was the pilot. So I tried it, and I learned how to do it.
People like you with high psi powers, elite level skill.
Yeah.
You can do a lot.
We can change the weather anywhere in the world.
This takes mutually assured destruction to a whole new level.
The Russians look across the battlefield and kill their enemies by stopping their hearts. Our government was afraid of us. With the remote viewing, there's no more secrets. My biggest strength actually is accessing people mentally.
Can you access me mentally right now?
Ignition sequence start. How is this possible?
Nothing too unusual about that.
Their existence cannot longer be denied.
Here with Lyn Buchanan. This is a total honor. And I don't know if you know this, but this is a full circle moment for me because right when I started my show, I called Jeffrey Michels because I was a huge fan of his show, New Thinking Aloud, and I need to still have him on as a guest. But he recommended I interview you, and I almost did this road trip across New Mexico. And so you would have been the first American Alchemy guest.
Well, hey, that's an honor for me. Well, it's an honor for me to be here today. Thank you.
It's an honor for me to have you. I think without spoiling too much for the audience, you have experienced so much, both in the world of remote viewing and, you were stationed at Fort Meade and you are the inspiration for The Men Who Stared at Goats, this, incredible George Clooney movie about a psychic spy stopping a goat's heart. And we can talk about how real that is. But you also have all these kind of intersections with, you remote viewed alien bases.
Yeah.
You've seen a UFO inside a hangar, not just in some sort of liminal consciousness remote viewing space.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know. There's so many things. You've remote viewed political figures, religious figures. There's a lot to get into here. So I'm very excited to have you.
I have lived in interesting times.
You have, and you are subtly referring to the Confucian proverb.
Oh yeah,
it's better to live in interesting times, which is actually kind of a Confucian curse. So
I know.
We live in interesting but bad times.
Yeah,
it's true. Well, before I have you remote view hantavirus and whatever's gonna come down the pike. I want to start with your kind of origin story as far as how you got into the remote viewing program.
Most people look at all of the people who were remote viewers in the remote viewing unit and never ask what they did before. We all had serious military histories before that. I was in Augsburg, Germany. Ever since I was about 12 years old, I had this PK ability. Like a poltergeist kid. Do you know what that is?
No.
Poltergeist kid is one of those kids where when they get emotionally upset, things fall off shelves and things like that.
So you were like Matilda.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's actually more common than people realize, but people grow out of it. And my mother encouraged it. And so I sort of grew into it.
You fried a computer?
Yeah. In Augsburg, they had 12 different countries in that one facility, and they all had their own computers, their own computer systems and all that didn't talk to each other. Well, I can program computers. So they put out this thing where they wanted somebody to write a program that would tie all 12 computers together and get them talking to each other. This one other sergeant wanted the job. I wanted the job, and I got it. So about 9 months later, I had the program written, and came the time to demonstrate it. And all the generals from 12 different countries got together and all. And I went to the bathroom to make sure my hair was in place and no wrinkles in my uniform and all that. And I came back, did my little song and dance for the generals, and then hit the enter key to start the program. And the computer went dead. And I mean, I had tested this thing over and over and over. And they all started laughing at me. I turned around, and the other sergeant was at the back door of the room, and he said, "Gotcha," and turned around and walked off. He wanted that job, and he was just waiting. I got flaming angry. When I did, the entire field station went down. There was an estimate sometime later that it was about $50 million worth of computers that just went bad, fried. And so for the next period of time that's still classified, everybody at the field station was going to work, taking their crossword puzzle books and all this, making it look like to the Russian spy in the sky, like business as usual. Come to find out later, the Russians were doing the same thing and were in East Germany because it had fried their computers too. And so anyway, and this is documented, by the way. So anyway, General Stubblebine, the head of the Intelligence and Security Command, had been looking for something like that. He got wind of it, and he came to the field station to install a new commander. And when he came, they came to my desk and they said, "The general wants to see you." And I thought, oh, crap, what have I done now? And he installed a new commander. He and the new commander came back to the office, and I was standing there waiting, and he looked at my name tag, and he said, "You're Sergeant Buchanan?" And I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Follow me." He grabbed me by the arm and shoved me ahead of him. No, you walk behind the general. He shoved me ahead of him. We went into the new commander's office. He turned to the new commander and said, "I need to talk to Sergeant Buchanan. Get out." You can guess what list I went to the head of. And I was there for another 2 months at the top of that list.
What list?
The shit list. And anyway, about 2 months later, they got transferred to Fort Meade. And General Stubblebine wanted to put me as the beginning of a unit that would destroy enemy computers. And with the end goal of controlling the enemy computers so that we could make their missiles turn around and go back or drop into the sea or something like that, or put false information into the enemy computers. Congress said, no, that's mind control, and wouldn't fund it. So he took me out to Fort Meade and had that remote viewing unit. He took me out there and put me into that. And when they read me on, which is where they give you a sheet of paper that tells you what the unit really does, not what they tell the public it does. And you read that, and down at the bottom, you sign it, 10 years in jail and $10,000 fine if you reveal any of this. And so I read it, and I thought, this is a joke. The Army doesn't do psychic stuff. And come to find out they did. And that's how I got into the unit. They started teaching me the Inga Swan method, and I took to it like duck to water. I mean, it was the greatest thing I'd ever seen.
So Stubblebine, who's head of Army INSCOM, is that right?
Intelligence and Security Command, yeah.
Intelligence and Security Command, and he's looking for people like you with high psi powers.
Yes, he had been for years, yeah. Uh-huh.
So he's like, if we're in Stranger Things, you're like 11, and he's like Matthew Modine's character coming in.
I guess, yeah.
Saying this guy has some real powers.
Oh, yeah, because I found out years later, I was at the Bureau of Indian Affairs in the cafeteria, and I was sitting there, and this Aussie officer came up from Australia, and asked if he could sit down, and I said, sure, and so he sat at the table with me and started talking to me and said my name. And I said, how do you know my name? He said, oh, your picture is on the wall of one of our computer people. He said, you're the one that knocked out our computers over in Australia. Yeah. Oh, I did? So I was flaming mad that day.
Clearly.
Very.
That's wild. Yeah, it's interesting because Stubblebine works with a guy named John Alexander, has a long history with him. Yeah, John.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Alexander always pops up where the paranormal is too, when John Hutchinson is getting his effect, of levitating objects in California.
Yeah.
Alexander's tasked with looking into it.
Quite a host or a Pandora's box of different types of effects on the outer edge of the scientific community.
In this remarkable series of video clips shot by Hutchison, we see what happens when he fine-tunes the electromagnetic frequencies aimed at target objects in his garage.
It's almost like there's this paranormal investigations unit within the military.
Oh, there has been for a long time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's been all subterfuge and, hush-hush and all that. But that's been going on for a long time, yeah.
Mm. How long has that been going on for?
I would say since World War II.
Mm.
When I was in Russian school in California, Monterey, California, to become a Russian linguist, which was my method of service, MOS. I was officially a Russian linguist, intercept operator, and with the caveat of technology. That was my military MOS. And one of the teachers came in one day and said that she had been in the Russian psychic warfare program, and she brought me some reading material in Russian from Colonel Igor Penkovsky, who tried to defect from Russia. And it said that Adolf Hitler had a unit called Dr. Grunbaum in Germany, and that it did medical experiments on the Jews and all this, but one part of it was also psychic spying. When the Germans lost the war, the French, English, and the Americans didn't want any of this psychic stuff, So the Russians took it, and they had developed it. Well, by the 1960s, we were losing classified information like crazy, and they couldn't find any ground agents. They couldn't find anybody. And that's when Igor Pinkovsky tried to defect and brought the documentation that said the Russians had been doing that. Everybody had a laugh about that, but the intelligence service doesn't laugh. They don't laugh at anything. And so they said, well, if the Russians can do that, let's do it right back at them. And so they went out and hired Hal Puthoff and Russell Tarb, who were laser physicists, who had published a paper showing how the intentions of the researcher can even affect a laser light beam. And, with the double slit experiment and all that. So they gave them the an initial contract. They contacted Ingo Swann. Ingo Swann developed the methodology called controlled remote viewing. They started a remote viewing unit, and that unit had been in existence 10 years before I got there.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you primarily worked at Fort Meade, is that right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you're going into work, and you just have your fellow psychic spies at work. And what is this, like you sit at a cubicle, you're given targets?
That's it.
And you got to go?
Yeah.
But the targets are sometimes world leaders.
Oh, usually world leaders, their plans and intentions for the day, for the next day of battle. Saddam Hussein never stood a chance. We knew what he was going to do every day. And in fact, for the longest time they were looking for Saddam Hussein. We knew exactly where he was. We turned it in every day. They knew where he was.
Did you ever personally remote view Saddam Hussein? Something that comes up constantly with the whistleblowers I have on this show is that the privacy tools most people rely on don't actually go deep enough. A VPN might encrypt your browsing. An encrypted messaging app protects your texts. But your carrier sits below all of that. They see everything. Who you called, when, from where, and they're not just keeping the data, they're selling it. This is the last thing that anyone working on anything sensitive wants in their life. That's why I wanted to work with Cape. Cape is America's privacy-first mobile carrier. It offers the same reliable cell service, but built from the ground up with privacy as the actual priority rather than an afterthought. A few things about Cape stood out to me. Cape automatically rotates your subscriber identity every 24 hours, so you look like a different user to the network every day. This makes it significantly harder for anyone to track your movements. Your call and text metadata get deleted after 24 hours, and they give you 2 additional phone numbers included in your plan. Both of these numbers are encrypted, and they work for things like 2-factor authentication and signups, so your real number stays protected. This is the layer that most privacy tools can't touch. And for anyone in this audience who thinks seriously about who has access to their communications, it's worth looking at. Use code American Alchemy at cape.co/American Alchemy to get 33% off your first 6 months. Again, that's cape.co/American Alchemy, code American Alchemy. Get 33% off today and protect your communications. Did you ever personally remote view Saddam Hussein?
Almost every day.
What was he like?
He's crazy.
How so?
He was totally crazy. Yeah. He 100% believed that God wanted him to rule the world, and that anybody who would stop him from ruling the world was of the devil and had to be killed.
Really?
Simple as that, yeah. I mean, he was crazy.
Delusions of grandeur.
Oh, yeah.
It makes sense because when there was all this kind of chatter about Iraq having WMDs, weapons of mass destruction, after 9/11,
Yeah.
which was this bizarre conflation on behalf of the American intelligence agencies where, like, you had Al-Qaeda, you know, hanging out in Afghanistan, and then you had Saddam who, you know, maybe there was this, like, long-held grudge since Desert Storm, desire to take him out. But, like, he wasn't connected with 9/11. If anything, he was an enemy of Osama bin Laden.
Yeah.
But there was this implication that he had weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah.
And he could have simply said, I don't have weapons of mass destruction, and held some, you know, large press conference to that effect. But maybe this makes sense in the context of this delusions of grandeur kind of psychology, where he just continued to grandstand despite not even having weapons of mass destruction.
He wanted the world to be afraid of him. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Was there anything else, I don't know, any other like random details about his life? Like, did he have, you know, did he enjoy some weird hobby that like you wouldn't expect, like croquet or something like that?
I was never tasked with that.
Okay.
So I never really went into it. One of the things about the military, the U.S. military remote viewing effort, we were strictly told to never use this for personal reasons, which was total waste of an order. But also, and we did follow this, we were told that it was a federal offense and we would go to jail if we used it against U.S. citizens. And then the third rule was you will use it only for what we task you to use. Because, I mean, our government was afraid of us. Because, you know, with the remote viewing, there's no more secrets.
Can you remote view the Q codes?
Oh, could. I've never been tasked to do so.
That's scary. And so what weirds me out about remote viewing is if you can remote view the Q codes and then you have these open source protocols, Ingo Swann's, you know, teachings on remote viewing are public.
Oh, yeah.
Your teachings on remote viewing are public. What's stopping some rogue Al-Qaeda operative from doing that with our assets?
Well, to be totally honest, what we teach to the public is probably about 1/10 of what we know about remote viewing.
Okay.
There's and Ingo personally developed up through stage 18. He offered to teach me up through stage 11, but at the time he did, my wife was extremely ill. My mother was dying. I didn't get a chance to go up there. And before all that got over and settled, he had already passed away. So I never learned up through stage 11. But
so there are a lot of levels, and there's rigorous training to get really, really good.
And all we ever teach to the public is stage 1 through 6. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I'm almost wondering, like on the Saddam thing, I almost want to press on, like, is there a detail you can share that's counterintuitive or that, you know, most people wouldn't be able to know in kind of open source world? And then I wonder if that sort of, you know, allows like a, you know, some random researcher or somebody who knew him to come out from the woodworks and then reach out and they say, oh, yeah, I can verify that, you know, this is something about it.
Not that I can think of. We were tasked to remote view his facility that he had, his own personal facility. And the facility, of course, had no weapons or anything like that. And so for some reason, while we were doing that, because we had to draw maps as well, you know, accurate maps of the facility and or of any target we did. And there was something about the generators that got me. He had a little facility. He had his own generators to power the facility and all that. So he's totally off grid. And there was something about that. And so I mentally went in, queued to move inside the facility, inside that building, and describe. And one of those generators just seemed wrong. And I couldn't figure out why. And so I just focused in on that one generator, found out that it was hollow and that it would tilt back. And when it tilted back, there were steps going down into a weapons bunker that you wouldn't believe.
Whoa.
I mean, a weapons bunker that was stocked fully.
It's like a trap door.
It was like a false door. Yeah.
What sort of weapons?
They had everything. They had rockets. They had lasers. They had, bombs.
So they did
artillery.
They did have an arsenal.
Oh, they had an arsenal,
but no.
He had an arsenal on his private place.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that was under there.
That's wild.
Yeah,
but no nukes, obviously.
I didn't. I was just seeing the physical things. I don't know.
So he just had all these sort of crazy armaments.
Oh yeah,
for his own little compound.
Yeah,
probably big compound.
Yeah,
fascinating.
Yeah,
interesting. So, you are the inspiration for Cassidy and the Men Who Stared at Goats.
Yeah,
and in the movie, he stops a goat's heart. He kills a goat.
In the movie, he did.
Did you ever kill a goat?
I didn't do that. That was another sergeant, and it actually happened.
No way.
But I didn't do it.
You wouldn't have done that.
And the thing is, in the movie, you see him leaving in the helicopter.
Mm-hmm.
From what I've heard, the guy who did kill the goat experienced dying with the goat.
Whoa.
And it upset him so much that in the end, he stole a helicopter and disappeared, and they haven't looked for him since.
No way.
And what he did with the helicopter, I don't know. But they said he's disappeared, and they haven't looked for him.
So the guy killed the goat, felt some sort of symbiotic coupling of feeling with the goat, went through his own death.
Dying with him, yeah.
And then got so psychologically disturbed that he stole a helicopter and was never seen again?
That's the story that I hear from the grapevine. Yeah.
Who was this guy?
Oh, he was just one of the sergeants that was in the 1st Earth Battalion.
Wow.
They were doing all kinds of stuff like that.
Do you remember anybody, like, did he have a boss or?
Jim Channon, yeah.
Jim Channon was this guy's boss?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I know how to do it. And I won't teach it to anybody.
That's a scary prospect. So you think teams of remote viewers can literally kill other people and animals?
A single remote viewer can.
A single remote viewer can.
And the scary part is it is so easy to do.
So that's freaky, first of all.
Yeah.
Second of all, I'm sure there are a whole host of skeptics out there who are saying, why are not world leaders dropping like flies?
Well, because why are world leaders dropping like flies? Okay, because we know what they want, we know what they're going to do, and all that. You drop one of them, you get an unknown in. And you have to start all over. The intelligence services have to start all over. No, you want to keep them.
So you think if somebody gets out of hand enough, like if you were to replay World War II, presumably if, the Allies had this capability, by 1941 or 2, they would have remote view tried to kill Hitler.
Oh, yeah. And Hitler was already working on this. The Russians, after they got all of this, had a woman named Nina Kalagina who was stopping the hearts of rats and rabbits and things like that, and wound up dying of a heart attack, by the way. But she was already working on that. The Russians were working on it to have their troops be able to look across the battlefield and kill their enemies by stopping their hearts.
You realize this takes mutually assured destruction to a whole new level.
Oh, yeah.
It goes well beyond
yeah.
nuclear capabilities.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's so crazy. So it's almost like the world's pretty locked down on a go-forward basis. If you can do this at will, it's not just nukes. It's, we might have pandemics. We might have sort of asymmetric, bizarre attacks, which, are horribly destructive. But the idea of all-out war seems pretty hard if you can just at will decapitate, your enemy's leader.
And it already is. The thing is, we don't need tanks and airplanes at all anymore. We can change the weather anywhere in the world. The Russians have earthquake weapons. They can cause an earthquake at Yellowstone that'll wipe out the center U.S. If they cause an earthquake on La Palma Island that's strong enough, the side of that volcano is already split off 5 feet. If it falls into the ocean, it's facing the U.S. If it falls into the ocean, 15 cubic kilometers of land will hit the ocean all at once. And the U.S. Geological Service has predicted that that would cause a tsunami that in some places would wipe out up to 26 miles inland on the east U.S. coast. And that's already known by the U.S. Geological Service.
Are you worried about that?
I'm not. Things like that would be so disastrous that I don't think any country wants it. And like I say, mutual destruction, they do that to us, we'll destroy them. And no, I don't think it's a thing, but the whole thing is that now war is just a money-making thing. It really is. I mean, we fight each other because of the weapons we have. Why not take out the weapons manufacturers? We don't do that. There's too much money involved.
I want to get into the logical conclusions of what you're saying because this means advancement in remote viewing is sort of advancement in your ability to sort of control the world, geopolitical landscape. Because I'll look at somebody like, Trump or Kim Jong-un or some of these leaders. They might be more predictable than their detractors say. Their detractors say, oh, they're completely irrational, they're crazy, whatever. Maybe they're more rational than we think. But Trump kind of shoots from the hip. I think some of these other leaders at times, you think yeah. Right? They kind of go on these little, escapades and adventures and act in discretionary ways. They're not just extensions of the bureaucracy. And so to the extent that gets out of hand for any party that knows how to do this remote viewing technique, they can just sort of act out against that. I mean, because that's a scary prospect. Is there defense against it?
I haven't talked about this to anybody. I may as well do it now. Okay. I have been in-depth remote viewing this. Do you know the term OWOG?
No.
OWOG, One World, One Government. We're going into space. Okay. And many of the beings that are already out there don't want us out there the way we are. And at some point, when we get into space, we're going to have one world, one government to at least some extent. And if one country destroys another, then it blocks that. And from what I'm finding, the powers that actually are behind the governments and run the governments want us to have one world, one government to prepare us for space.
Who are the powers that are behind the government?
I wish I knew.
But you were
And
convinced.
if I knew, I wouldn't say, bump me off just real quick.
I think that's probably the right move. But you're convinced that our civilian leaders are not, that the front-facing leaders that we see are not the true power in government.
They're the man behind the curtain. That's, like in The Wizard of Oz. Yes.
And it's not just, it's an actual Wizard of Oz or a mechanical Turk, to use another term.
Oh, no.
It's not, okay, but it's not, it's, what you're saying is it's not just a bunch of guys in bureaucratic positions who are lifelong politicians.
No.
It's a vital group that has deliberate intentions.
That is organizing everything. Yeah. Yeah.
So like a true deep state.
A true deep state. Yeah. And it exists. But,
what makes you convinced of that? I want to take a moment to thank one of today's sponsors, ZBiotics. I've been using their pre-alcohol product for years, and when the opportunity came up to work with them, I jumped at it because it's one of the few things I actually drink before a night out with friends when it's time to celebrate a special event. And that little decision I make before I go out changes everything. ZBiotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to specifically tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's a buildup of this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for the rough days after drinking. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night, of course drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. I have ZBiotics before my first drink of the night, and I wake up feeling totally normal the next morning. As you'll know, if you're older than, say, the age of 28 or 29 is not usual. So go to ZBiotics.com/Jesse to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use Jesse at checkout. ZBiotics is also backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money. No questions asked. Remember to head to ZBiotics.com/Jesse and use the code Jesse at checkout for 15% off. What makes you convinced of that?
The viewing that I've done. And
they must be, because they must be more advanced at the psychic stuff. That has to be the way. I mean, if the psychic stuff is true, so like, let's just assume that it is. I think it is, but there are people out there that don't. Let's just assume that it is. I know you've lived it. You're so far past that debate, but let's assume that that's true. I love how many people hear that it's true and then they stop there.
Oh, yeah.
The logical conclusion of the psychic stuff being true is a very different stratification of society itself. It's a different social hierarchy. And it's basically the people who are most advanced in this stuff have to have the Archimedes lever of control.
Yeah. Let me divert this whole conversation here to that. When they started the research on remote viewing, what they did was they would take your complete session and see how accurate it was. What we found out was that everybody has strengths and weaknesses. And so one person may get the color right all the time and couldn't tell you the shape of something if they had to. Other person will get the shape, but not relationships or sounds or something like that. And so everybody has strengths and weaknesses. So when I started, 30 years ago, was a database that I've kept ever since of viewers' work. And we actually go through perception by perception by perception, judging it against the feedback. If you have the police come and they say, well, describe the getaway car. You need to know the shape, the age, and all that of the getaway car. I will look in the database and say, who is always right at color? Now then, who is always right at drawing a pattern? Task him with a license plate. Who's always right at the shape of an object? Draw me the car, and so on. And by doing this, we can take 10 remote viewers who have an overall average of 70% accuracy, and by tasking them only with what they're best at, we can turn 95% accuracy into a customer, and doing it that way. But that's tons of work, and that in itself has turned into the proof. Because, used to, they would say, show me your proof. Now they say, show me your data. And we've got the data. and so that winds up being the proof of the efficacy of the controlled remote viewing.
What's your biggest strength?
My biggest strength actually is accessing people mentally.
Could you access me mentally right now?
Wouldn't.
I'd be fine with it.
No. I am on retention.
Uh-huh.
I'm not officially retired. I'm on retention.
Uh-huh.
And as far as I'm concerned, Presidential Order 12333 still applies to me. I do not access U.S. citizens, period.
Yeah, cool.
I don't do it.
Nice. Well, I guess we were getting into this stuff because I'm a believer in parapsychology, remote viewing.
Yeah.
But I think very few people get into what that means for what society actually looks like and how it's built.
Oh, yeah.
Because if somebody has some sort of vital team that's extremely like elite level skilled at these sorts of things, you can do a lot. Yeah. And so like, it's funny.
That's British understatement.
Yeah, right? Yeah, it is a British understatement. So, I hear you saying because of your remote viewing work, you're convinced in a deep state. I would assume the deep state would have to be like even more skilled and better at these sorts of things, right?
No,
Than
not
like
really. No.
No?
No.
So what are they better at?
They just decide they're in control. They decide what's going to happen. Yeah.
But if you have like ultimate leverage over like psychic abilities, you're in control no matter what, right? Like,
and they don't need that.
Why don't they need that?
Because they're in control. What do they need it for? They'll get somebody who can do it.
Couldn't you stop them because you're, psychic and you have like a team
I
that's
would not
psychic?
attack. You don't attack a gorilla. Oh, yeah. No, there's self-preservation involved here.
You mentioned Ingo Swann.
Yeah.
Ingo Swann is a legendary remote viewer, long deceased, but he just has an incredible story, and he wrote a book called Penetration, where he talks about remote viewing the dark side of the moon.
Yeah, and Axelrod and all that, yeah.
Yeah, and being almost abducted by what appears to be like a legacy UFO program, taken underground. Really incredible story. Do you think all of that happened? And do you think he actually remote viewed alien bases on the dark side of the moon?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And what gives you
I'm
conviction?
not all that certain about the details of the Axelrod story, but the bases on the moon, yeah, they're there.
Have you ever remote viewed?
Oh, yeah.
Alien bases?
Yeah.
And what did you see?
Basically what they were doing and their location and things like that. Yeah, they're there, but they're not there only there on the moon. They're on other places too, of course.
What were they doing?
Basically, what I got for most of them was minerals. They're just interested in minerals. Nothing, no skullduggery or anything like that. Nothing,
Is the moon an artificial object sent here to monitor Earth?
I don't believe so.
Okay. So they're just mining minerals on the moon.
That's what I got. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. What sorts of aliens were up there?
I didn't go into that. No, the alien bases, the 4 major alien bases on the Earth, I did those in depth, but the ones on the moon, I was just asked, what's going on, where are they, what's it look like, and all that. So
Yeah,
I did what I was tasked to do.
This is Project 8200, right? Where Pat Price had seen
Pat Price saw the 4 alien bases, and they did Project 8200 before I got there. However, after I got there, Skip Atwater was having us do those sort of to keep track of what's going on at those as time goes on. The one in Mount Hayes, Alaska, Pat Price and Joe McMoneagle had found aliens and humans working side by side as sort of an intelligence gathering place. And years later, when I got there, I did Mount Hayes and found out that the equipment was now automated and still running, but there was no need for personnel there. So it was basically kind of empty of people.
And what was the purpose of it?
Keeping intelligence on the U.S. I mean, on the Earth, just collecting data and signals and all that.
What would happen to me or an average civilian if we just went to Mount Hayes right now and tried to check this
You'd
out?
probably get lost and frozen. I mean, it's high. It's constantly under snow, and I doubt you'd find your way in.
So there's something on the inside of the mountain.
Oh, it's inside the mountain, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So similar to like the Cheyenne Mountain Complex when it comes to the American government.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And do UFOs fly in and out?
I didn't get that, no, and neither did Joe or Pat Price. No, where they fly in and out is in Mount Zeal in northern Australia. And see, I did all these blind, just, like everybody else. And the sketches that I drew, I mean, matched Pat Price's down to the measurements and everything else. So that kind of confirmed it for me. But Mount Zeal is sort of a port of entry to the Earth, that friendly ones go there and then from there spread out around the world. And Skip one time, Skip Atwater, wanted some feedback, and so he called a friend of his working in there in Australia and asked him if anything was going on. And he said, "No, nothing happens here. It's the most boring job I've ever had. If it weren't for all those UFOs going in and out of Mount Zeal, wouldn't have anything to do."
Whoa.
Yeah.
What's the purpose of the UFOs going in and out? Are they refueling? Are they?
No, it's sort of like an airport, just a port of entry. No, and
what makes it is there like a reason why it's a good port of entry? Is there something, geomagnetically anomalous about it or anything?
I don't know. It's isolated. That's all I know. When I did that, when Pat Price did that one, they let him know that they knew he was there, and that scared him. He never went back. When I viewed it, the first thing that happened was they let me know that they knew I was there and that it was okay. And so I just went through the whole facility sketching and
what was that facility like?
It was basically 2 levels. One level was where the ships come in, settle into kind of a dock, And passengers get on and off, and also the crew down below goes down to the lower floor, and that's the maintenance and everything else. And that it's just sort of an airport, I guess you could say. Now, one thing that happened with my view was something that they said they never heard before. In the area where the travelers, go in and out, I saw a gray female with a baby gray. And they said they've never heard of anything like that on the earth before, any observation of that. But, yeah, they let me know it was okay to be there, and, hey, have a look around.
Why do you think they let you just look around?
I don't think they care. I mean,
it's like
what have they got to fear from me?
It's like a zoologist or something going into the jungle in Africa and looking at the gorillas or whatever.
And the gorillas just say, "Oh, here's a gorilla that's bald. Yeah, welcome him in." Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
it's interesting. It's almost like when you learn deeply advanced remote viewing, maybe your epistemology, your way of knowing, kind of converges on theirs. It's like you.
It does. There are, without going too deeply into it, there are even ways that you can physically change while you're remote viewing.
Really?
Yeah.
You can physically change.
You can physically change.
Have you ever physically changed?
Well, I was doing one of the Saddam Hussein things one time, and the woman who was monitoring me at the time let out a scream and ran out of the building, and I found out the next day. She finally told me, she said, "Your eyes turned brown and your voice deepened." And she said, "But your eyes turned actually brown." And so I had just accessed him to that point.
Whoa.
But I mean, after
your eyes
accessing him every single day.
Because your eyes, I'm looking at them right now, you have beautiful eyes.
I'm blue-eyed, yeah.
Milky blue eyes.
Uh-huh.
So your eyes turned to the same color as Saddam Hussein?
That's what she said. That's what she told me, yeah. Uh-huh.
So it was like you were merging with him?
Merging, sort of, yeah.
Wow.
So,
like inhabiting him or something?
Sort of sinking with him or something. I don't know. I didn't know anything about it until she said,
You also remote viewed Gorbachev.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What was he like?
He was a nice guy. He really was.
Seems like a nice guy from his public appearances.
Oh, yeah. And somebody critiques my book, The Seventh Sense. By the way, I brought you a copy.
Thank you.
And I know people bring you books all the time that you can't read. You don't have time. So no obligation to read it, okay? There won't be a test.
Oh, well, that means a lot. I've already read part of it. So
I won't come back and say, "What did you think about Chapter 7?
Well, you can. It's okay. You remote viewed Gorbachev, and you said that he was a nice guy.
Somebody said in the book that I had said that I convinced Russia to end communism. And that's not true, at all. But I was over at the golf club one day there on Fort Meade eating lunch, and two agents came in and sat down at a far table. And I mean, they blend in so perfectly that they stand out. You can get the vibe right there. Oh, these guys are, not here to eat. And so I got up and left, and when I did, they followed me out to the parking lot, and they had me get in their car. They drove me around Fort Meade, and basically they said, we want you to do things to affect Gorbachev and all this. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. For one thing, this was another edict we had on us that there would be no active mental work. We were there to collect intelligence, not to do influencing or anything like that. And so I said, no, I can go to jail for that, And so anyway, when I got out of the car, I don't know what made me say it, but just sort of to be nasty to those two guys, I leaned back down to the open door and I said, but maybe I can make him end communism, And anyway, when I got home that evening, I thought, I wonder if I could do something like that. I thought, no, it's stupid, So I started doing sessions, and what surprised me was the speech where they ended communism. The words in that speech were the words that I had been pumping into him.
No way.
Yeah.
Like what?
Oh, well, it's all in Russian. But
do you remember what words you were popping into him?
Oh, yeah.
Like what?
Well, that's not the point I'm trying to make here. The point is that for a good year and a half before that, he was already planning to end communism. So did I have any effect on that? No. I may have helped him with his speech. That was it.
Do you remember how specifically you helped him at all? Or
one of the things I kept putting in was about the generations to follow and all this.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
But the terms and the words I was pumping in, he used in his speech. So
about the generations to follow and, what the future of Russia might look like.
Yeah.
And Mount Inyangani is another alien base.
In Zimbabwe, yeah. What I found out about that one was that it seems to be a repair facility, maintenance and repair facility.
For what?
For UFOs.
For UFOs?
Yeah. No, I never did the one that was in the Pyrenees. So I'm not sure about it.
That's Mount
That
Perdido.
was the fourth one, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mount Inyangani is interesting because people often go missing while they're hiking around Mount Inyangani.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you think there's a connection between that and this supposed
probably
alien
so.
base?
You see too much, you disappear. Yeah.
What happens to you?
Oh, you don't exist anymore. You die. Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. They guard things.
They guard things tightly.
Yeah. From what I've seen at Mount Zeal and there in Zimbabwe, I think you also have the chance of becoming a worker, but you don't come back. You don't go back home again.
Really?
Yeah.
So they abduct you and make you work for them.
I think it's voluntary. You have your choice between dying or working.
What makes you think that they make certain people workers?
Because there are humans working with them.
How do you know that? From your remote viewing? From
the remote viewing, yeah. And also from other reports, other viewing reports and actual reports.
What are the humans like active managers, or are they just underlings?
I think they're just underlings.
So they're like
sort
of effectively slaves for these ETs?
Now, while we're on the topic,
when we first started selling merchandise at AmericanAlchemyMerch.com, we had no idea how complicated and annoying selling merch could be. We talked to a dozen different platforms and companies, comparing shipping tools, payment options, website builders, and it all felt like way more of a headache and complicated than it should be. We decided on Shopify, and within days, our store was up. Shopify made it simple to build a store that actually feels authentic to us, which matters when your brand lives in a niche like alternative tech, UFOs, or fringe science, and when you have a very clear brand vision. Plus, their AI tools help write descriptions, organize products, even clean up photos, so we can focus on what matters and what we care about, building the best custom merch line possible with the coolest designs, like our UFO cowboy tee and the Atomic Age tee. Plus, Shopify handles all of the unglamorous, more painful stuff. Shipping, returns, email marketing, all in one clean dashboard. It's like having a silent partner who never sleeps. Bring your next idea to life with Shopify quietly handling everything behind it. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start today at shopify.com/Jesse. Again, that's shopify.com/Jesse, Jesse, for a $1 a month trial. It's just $1 a month to try Shopify, the state-of-the-art solution in e-commerce. I've learned some hard-earned lessons in life. For example, I've learned the hard way that comfortable clothing usually means comfortable for 15 minutes and then spending the rest of the day subtly irritated. The rough fabric, the chafing, the lack of flexibility, it all just sucks. That's why I've been wearing Chubbies. Their everywhere pants are the rare pants that actually move with you. They've got real stretch, the elastic waistband is genuinely comfortable, and they still look really put together. I'll wear them on a recording day, running around doing a million things, and I'm not thinking about my clothes at all, which is kind of the point. Same with their shorts and swim trunks that I have right here. They're lightweight, they're stretchy, they fit just right, and you're not dealing with that old scratchy mesh situation down there. You put them on and you're done. For a limited time, Chubbies is giving our listeners 20% off with code Jesse at chubbiesshorts.com. That is 20% off your order with code Jesse. Give your thighs the VIP treatment they deserve with Chubbies. Support our show, use our code, and tell them we sent you. Thank you so much to Chubbies for sponsoring today's episode.
While we're on the topic, about 5 years ago, I was in El Paso and stopped at a restaurant, and I ate, came back out to the car, and when I did, two humans, came up and said, "You're Lyn Buchanan." I already knew that. Yeah. And I said, yes. And they said, we're interested in finding out something if you could find out for us. And that is, who in the government is looking at the wedge of the DNA chart that says other? And I says, I have no idea. They said, well, could you find out? Well, Linda Moulton Howe is a good friend of mine. And so I said, maybe Linda could answer the question. She knew him. I mean, you talk about an investigative reporter. She's an investigative reporter. She knows. And she clicked off the names immediately. And so I asked them why. And he said, back centuries and centuries ago, when the ETs left the Earth, they took humans with them as slaves. And he said, we've been slaves for hundreds of generations on another planet. Our DNA has changed to match that. And he said, now that we're coming back here and serving to do the work at these bases, some of us are escaping. And he said, we don't want to do anything in the government. We don't want any power. We don't want anything. We just want to be free. That's all we want. And he said, we're afraid of that DNA test.
Are those beings physiologically exactly the same as all other humans?
These two guys were.
Do they have any other sort of adaptive powers, behaviors, or traits based on their
There
evolution?
were two guys in a parking lot. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's what happened. And so I guess it's a possibility of being true. I don't know.
So those aliens that came here, thousands of years ago, stories of like Anunnaki and Watchers and that
all
sort of
that.
thing.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So they had, humans working for them when they came originally, call it 10,000-ish years ago.
Yeah, and when they left, they took workers with them.
They took workers with them.
Yeah.
And then now they come back, occasionally visit some of these bases, and they bring the workers with them to work.
To do the work, to do the slave work.
And then occasionally some of those workers escape.
That's what these two guys told me. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. That's just what they told me. But they told me in a way that I tended to believe it. I have no proof.
Pat Price, who was originally responsible for viewing these 4, alien bases, was one of the most skilled remote viewers of all time.
He was a psychic.
How would you make that distinction?
A psychic is a person who has the natural ability and great strength and knows how to access it.
A remote viewer is trained.
A remote viewer.
A psychic is born.
Yeah.
Okay.
The remote viewing that was made for the military wasn't made for psychics. The military didn't want psychics. They wanted to teach the ordinary soldier how to know what's over the hill and where to point the guns. That's what they wanted.
Are you a remote viewer or a psychic?
I'm a remote viewer. Well, but I grew up with the PK ability and some psychic sense. Everybody has intuition to some extent, okay? Some more than others and all that. But the controlled remote viewing is actually a martial art. What happens is your subconscious knows something. It can't talk to the conscious mind without a psychiatrist's couch, and so it gives you a physical response. When you can learn consciously to read those physical responses and you can train those to where it's a communication line, then you can physically pass a question to your subconscious mind. It will cause a physical response. You read that physical response and you've got the answer. That's what controlled remote viewing is. It's actually a martial art.
Fascinating.
Yeah. It's not, the answer is, the answer is, put the question to your forehead and the answer is. It's not that at all. Yeah.
Do you have a sense of how it mechanically works, or are we sort of in the Stone Age as far as, with like a radio signal?
Yeah.
It's pretty clear how it works. With remote viewing, do we understand the actual transmission mechanism?
Some of the people who do the controlled remote viewing will write down the coordinates because you never tell them what the target is. You just give them a encrypted number and let their pen do scribble, 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 and then they go back and touch it. Well, scribble, scribble, scribble is automatic writing, which some people are good at. Psychometry is where you go back and touch something and get information off of it, okay? And so that's one way to begin a CRV session. Another way, and the way that I teach my students, is the martial art way. Wax on, wipe off, okay? And so you say, draw me the most basic graphic you can of land. And some people will make a mountain, some people will make a straight line. And then show me water, and they'll make a wavy line. And you have this other vocabulary, and you practice and practice and practice that. This is how they taught me. The English Swan method was taught to me. And when it gets to the point where the monitor who's calling out these words starts to say the word and the viewer automatically makes the word that's going to be said, that's when you know their subconscious mind is accessing the monitor. That's when you know you've got it. So then you go to that's called stage 1. So then you go to stage 2 where you say, describe the water. And by describing the water, you say, how does it taste? How does it feel? What's the temperature? You use only physical descriptors. And you get the physical descriptors of it. And then you say, it feels cold. Well, how cold is it? That's where you start getting the measurements. And as you go through the 6 stages, you finally get down to where you can reproduce the circuitry on a circuit board. I mean, it gets that detailed. And this is the genius of what Ingo Swann did. He started out with, I don't know what's at the target, but man, there's land and water and something man-made. You know? And at that point in the training, where you're in stage 1 training, you open the envelope and there's a ship sitting at dock. Just like that, you know? And when you get good at that, 80% accurate at it through practice, then you move into stage 2.
Joseph McMoneagle was tasked with remote viewing Mars a million years ago, claimed to see people who were much taller than human beings and pyramid structures and sort of a civilization. Have you seen anything like that? Have you ever remote viewed Mars?
Yeah. In stage 6, there's a phenomenon called bilocation, and there's one step beyond that, which we call perfect site integration. When you reach that stage, you're not at the target, okay? But your attention is so focused on the target that you forget about the room around you or anything else, and your attention is so focused on it, you cannot tell that you're not at the target. You feel the breeze on your face, you feel the temperature, everything. You see it. And the first time that happened to me was with the Sedona region at Mars. And I was working along. I'd gotten some coordinates, just some numbers. And I was working along, and all of a sudden, I felt sand under my feet. Now, here's an idiosyncrasy. I never remote view with my shoes on. I don't know why. I'm a Texas boy. I take my shoes off, you know. And so I felt the sand under my feet, and I looked down, and I was in a hallway that was filled with sand. And I looked up, and there was an opening at the far end of the hallway. So I walked down to the opening, and it was open, so I leaned out, and the building that I was in was sloping backwards, and it's just all rough and just eroded and everything else. And I looked out. The sun was dim. The sky was the wrong color. It's extremely cold. The place smelled bad. And I looked at the other things that were around and came back and described them and, drew a picture of it and all that. So I guess about 6 months later, we were out at place in California visiting Hal Puthoff. And there was a picture on the wall of the Sedona region of Mars. And this was not the picture everybody sees. You know how the picture they show is all fuzzy and all?
Mm-hmm.
Come on. They can read your license plate from 250 miles through air. You're going to tell me they can't see a mountain sharply on Mars? And this was a very sharp picture. And there on the side of one of those pyramids, there's a little opening. Been there, done that, didn't get the T-shirt. But I was looking at this picture and realizing that everything I had drawn from that angle from above was in the right place. Everything. The sky that I saw was the color of the sky on Mars. The sun was dimmer, and further away and all that. And the bitter cold and everything else.
Was it red?
What, the sun?
The landscape.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it was orangish red, yeah, and all that. I mean, it was desert. It was sand. After that session, they said, "Oh, you were on Mars." And I said, "Oh, okay." But when I saw that picture, that's when I realized, hey, I was on Mars. And, I cannot say I've ever been physically on Mars. But I have had the real experience of walking through the sands of Mars. And how are you going to explain that to anybody? I've had the experience of it.
Did you see any alien life?
Actually, I did. Yeah. Because the monitor took me elsewhere after that. But yeah.
And so where did you go after that where you saw alien life?
Down into the pyramid, and it was beings that are much larger than humans, but with atrophied limbs, probably incapable of ever coming out,
What did they look like? Did they look like humans but atrophied? Or
No, well, right at first they looked to me like worms. I mean, their legs and their arms were just, were there, but just, like I say, atrophied, not even used.
Was their skin color the same color as human?
Oh, roughly, I think. Yeah, as I remember it. I was there a very short time and they pulled me out. Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Did you get the sense as to whether they had a relationship with mankind at all, or they were from...
I didn't. They pulled me out. They pulled me out from that, yeah.
And this was present Mars. This isn't a million years ago.
Present, yeah. Yeah.
What's the most exotic place you've bilocated to?
The most exotic? I haven't heard that one before. The strangest place was Titan. I was tasked for some reason with Titan to find any life there.
Titan is a moon of Jupiter?
Yeah. And I found these two beings in a cave. Now, what I think they were looking for was sea under the surface or something like that. They weren't satisfied with what I got. But these two beings were conversing with each other. And like I say, my forte is mental access. I have never in any other time found anything as totally alien as that. There was no understanding their thoughts. There was no understanding anything about them. I could tell they were thinking. I could hear their thoughts, and there was no translation. There was nothing. The most alien thing I've ever experienced, period. And, I've been tasked with a lot of aliens. This was just indescribably alien.
Just completely foreign.
Completely. Totally ununderstandable.
Incomprehensible.
Yeah. Incomprehensible, yeah.
When you relay these things to your superiors as part of the remote viewing program, what do they say? Are they shocked, or are they like, oh, just another day on the job, and they're very blasé about it? Or
generally just another day on the job after, like I say, they've been there for 10 years before I ever got there. So, yeah, for them, it's just another day on the job, yeah.
How many alien species do you think you've personally come into contact with?
I think 5.
Have you seen any in a non-remote viewing capacity?
I was afraid you were going to ask that. Yes, and I can't talk about it.
Why not?
Because it was on a mission that I can't talk about.
Okay. Whoa.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Is there anything you can share about it, or?
No.
Okay. Was it shocking?
By that time, I had learned, anytime I went on one of these missions, I would always tell them, I don't want to know anything that I don't want to be responsible for. The alien was there. And so I immediately just looked away and kept going because I didn't want to be responsible for that, for knowing that. So
when you say mission, this isn't a remote viewing mission. This is like you were deployed somewhere?
Somewhere else, yeah.
Wow.
For another reason, yeah.
So what else have you done outside of remote viewing? Have you been deployed in different places around the world?
Well, yeah.
Military?
I was a computer expert, computer programmer, Russian linguist, German linguist. I was the only Mongolian linguist in all 5 services at the time, 6 services now with the Space Force. But I was the only Mongolian linguist in all military services. The first time I was in the service, I was into guided missiles and guided missile computer systems, control systems, and all that.
Fascinating. So, you've had a very winding career. You're polymathic.
I've lived in interesting times. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, for me, this, direct alien experience, obviously I'm insatiably curious and want to know more, but I respect your decision to not share more for the audience.
Well, I also had an abduction experience too. So
okay,
go ahead.
Well, I'm just and I want to get into that too. But for the audience, they might be wondering, why can Lynn share about some of the stuff he's remote viewed that also seems somewhat sensitive, but he can't talk about this one mission he was on where he saw an alien?
Well, I can talk about things that happened, but things like who was involved, what units were involved, what people and places were involved, and where it happened, and all that. Yeah, those are things that,
So you could theoretically talk about what the alien looked like with no context around.
Well, the one I saw at that time was one of what they call the insectoids.
Okay. Whoa.
Yeah.
Like a praying mantis or something?
I guess it was sitting at a position in a row of humans that were at their positions, and working some equipment. So.
Whoa.
And the thing is, many of these times where you have soldiers that are at these jobs all day long, if they know that somebody is coming in who's an outsider, they'll do something, just to, it could have been a soldier that just put on an alien hat or something like that. I don't know, because the minute I saw it, I looked away and kept walking.
Okay. So this could have been them trying to mess with you.
Could have been.
But it looked like an alien casually working hand in hand with human colleagues.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Well, can you say what they were working on?
You're back into what I can't talk about.
Okay, no worries. All right, we'll stop there. But that's interesting.
Yeah.
Do you think that in some of these places, humans and aliens are working side by side? You already said that in the context of Mount Zale in Australia.
And I've heard that from people who absolutely know for sure, yeah.
Really?
Over and over again, yeah.
Wow. And so what like...
Those 2 guys that approached me in the parking lot could explain why there are humans working with them. They may not be people who were born on Earth. I don't know. It's a question that I have that I don't know the answer to.
I've talked to Hal Putoff about things like this,
Yeah.
like sort of almost like portals on Earth where humans and aliens are sort of co-located, working together.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking as well before we started rolling about Indian reservations and certain off-limits places in the United States.
No, what I seem to have found is that the alien bases, I think most people think that the aliens come in and secretly form these bases that nobody human knows about and all that. I've come to the conclusion, personally, have no proof, no documentation, that these are the places where our government or the governments of other countries have said, you can have this spot to have your base. You stay away from us and we'll stay away from you. So they're more like reservations that we give to the Indians than they are bases where they have secretly come in and formed something that we don't know about. And I think we know everything about it.
So this is being done with our explicit permission.
That's what I get. Yeah.
There's a place called Secret Mountain near Bradshaw Ranch in Sedona, Arizona.
Okay.
And this is one of these places that's rumored that a friend and fellow reporter, Ross Coulthart, has systematically investigated this place. And it seems like UFOs are flying in and out of this mountain. And I think the land is sort of, it's like Bureau of Land Management. And I think it was then reserved for University of Northern Arizona. And there were some environmental studies going on. But basically, it's a way of saying off limits for anyone else. But nothing goes on there. Like no research goes on there. Instead, people just see men who are wearing these sort of nondescript, outfits.
Like
and
Dulce, New Mexico. And
and some of these other places.
Yeah.
So you think that's happening maybe all over the U.S.?
All over the world. I
all
think.
over the world.
Yeah.
How is this stuff so locked down for the ordinary person? Because, I systematically sort of investigate this stuff. You've lived it for decades. And so it's sort of obvious to you. For me, I'm, more on the fence than you, but probably more, inclined towards your side, obviously, than I am towards, an average person who hasn't studied this stuff. But how is there so much circumstantial evidence and yet the consensus still can maintain that there's nothing here? Is it them concealing themselves, the non-humans, or
Well, first of all, if you had something like that, would you want everybody to know? I mean, if you were to land on Mars, would you want all the Martians to know where you were? Probably not, I think most people don't want to know. They don't want to believe that happens. And so why shatter their paradigm, Does one country want to know the other is harboring aliens? I don't know a definite answer to that question, but I think most of all, people don't want to know.
Is there a connection between remote viewing and UFO crash retrievals?
Crash retrieval?
Yes.
Evidently not, from what I found out in that hangar.
Okay.
Yeah. The minute I saw that control panel out of UFO and said, that's out of UFO, I mean, they ran me out of that place.
Because there's a group called, I believe, the Borderlands Research Society.
I haven't heard of that one.
They're from the 40s, back in the day, and they were dabbling in kind of the occult. But they were doing some early remote viewing techniques, and there seems to be some documentation gathered by a researcher friend of mine named Richard Geldreit. She's amazing. And he says that they knew about some of the early crashes in the 40s and 50s before the Army and the Air Force. So I think if you're what you were saying earlier, that when we move into the psychic or remote viewing paradigm, we're kind of bumping into the epistemological framework of the non-humans.
Right.
Then if you were to try to have a really vital UFO crash retrieval team, you probably would use remote viewing in order to spot where the UFOs actually crashed.
And there are other methods too.
Okay.
I mean, one of the things you always hear about a UFO crash, within minutes, the government was there.
Right. So that implies some sort of like almost foreknowledge or really low latency, almost like quantum entanglement style understanding that would come from remote viewing more than it would from traditional communications.
No, I think traditional methods, you've seen one of them.
What's that?
On TV. There's a clip that they show on TV every now and then of this UFO that's coming in, and a beam goes like that, and the thing turns around and leaves. And they say, oh, that was just water on the window. In space, there's no water on the window. Come on. And we have UFO weapons. We have identification, friend and foe. We already have those things.
So do you believe that we have a vital UFO crash retrieval and reverse engineering program?
Oh, yeah.
And do you think that's tied in with remote viewing programs?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. We were never tasked with it.
Okay.
There was only one time that I've heard of, I wasn't there at the time, that we officially got tasked with a UFO target. All of the rest of the times that we did a lot of UFO stuff came under the heading of practice sessions, or some 2 or 3 star general might come up to your desk and say, hey, would you do me a favor? And what are you going to say? No, sir. There's a 2-star and you've got a sergeant saying, no, sir. That's not going to happen.
Well, didn't you remote view the 1980 Rendlesham Forest incident?
Oh, yeah.
Where this is, Royal Air Force Woodbridge, where you have sort of Royal Air Force, United States Air Force combined group in England near Rendlesham Forest.
Yeah.
And
one of my fortes is drawing floor plans.
Okay.
Of the insides of buildings. And I was the one that drew that went inside that triangular craft and actually drew the floor plans and the insides and all that.
Really?
So, yeah. Now, to be honest.
Can I back up, though, and just give the audience a little bit of context?
Oh, okay.
So 1980, 3 different U.S. Air Force sergeants, Jim Peniston, John Burroughs, I'm blanking on the third guy's name, all come across this. They see this triangle flying in the woods, then they see it land. Yeah. And I believe Peniston and Burroughs even went right up to it. Yeah. And so it's this black triangle, and then they found indentations in the thing. And you had Lord Hill Norton, who was head of the Admiral Fleet, saying, I think this happened. You had Colonel Halt, who was there, who was in charge at the time, doing a formal investigation, saying this happened. And so were you formally tasked with looking inside of this triangle UFO?
As a practice target.
As a practice target?
We were never officially charged in the chain of command with doing UFO targets.
Who assigned you that as a practice target?
I forget who it came from. It wasn't Ed Dames. He was always giving us UFO targets.
Ed Dames was.
Yeah.
So do you think these guys...
This was different. I forget who it came from.
So it's almost like there's a different line of command that's interested in the UFO knowledge?
Well, there's... In any organization, you have the formal organization and the informal.
So what's this informal organization that's interested in UFO stuff?
Well, it's totally unorganized. Like I say,
you think it's just emergent and like personal interest based?
A 2-star comes by your desk and says, will you do me a favor? You're not going to say no.
Is the 2-star, though, like, are they getting interested because they're like, I heard this crazy thing, I want to know, or is it more of like some sort of secret other branch?
They are all interested.
But it's pure personal interest. You don't think somebody's telling the 2-star, hey, get one of your best guys to look into this? Okay.
But do I suspect that they're, yeah.
So you think there might be another line of command, another chain of command?
Well, it's like they say about the UFOs. They think, what is our danger to our air superiority? That's become an official thing. And so are they going to task a remote viewer with it? Not officially.
Hmm.
They're going to come by your desk and say, hey, would you do me a favor?
So you do this guy a favor, this 2-star general,
And they walk out with the answer, and you never hear about it again.
What was inside of this triangle craft?
It was intelligently automated. There were no beings inside of it. There was a place where samples were being preserved, and this thing was going by and finding samples of, I don't know if it was soil or plant stuff or whatever, but there was a place in there where these samples were being kept. And then somehow the craft would seem to communicate back that it had found something, but it was totally self-automated. There were no beings in it at all.
And any other features of the craft? The color, the
Yeah, it was
texture,
red, sort of reddish light inside.
Mhm.
There was a control panel, so it could be controlled by beings. And there was this small hallway that went back to a chamber where samples were being held. And that was that.
Samples of
whatever it was picking up and finding, because it was out searching.
It's like this automated drone sort of thing.
Automated drone, yeah.
Yeah. And I believe Colonel John Alexander knew about Rendlesham before just about anybody else in the United States.
Probably so, yeah.
Was he involved in I guess you can't probably say, or...
No, John was rarely, I don't think he was ever involved in our unit.
Okay.
Bert, Albert Stubblebine, General Stubblebine, became a really good friend. I always called him Bert. And Bert intentionally kept him out of it.
Albert Stubblebine is a very interesting figure who seems very conspiratorial himself.
He became like a second father to me. I just treasure that man.
What is his... Tell us about him, because he's this very intriguing figure in kind of UFO lore.
Yeah.
Like when Stephen Greer, for example, or initially gets into all this stuff, he was this emergency medical doctor, and then he develops CE5, this protocol to sort of call in UFOs.
Yeah.
And Stubblebine is first on the scene to, ostensibly try to almost recruit him into some sort of government program.
Yeah.
So what is Stubblebine like? What's his deal?
Bert was very interested in it. Bert had the project going where he had people out looking for PK events and things like this. That's how I got reported to Bert, who was head of the Intelligence and Security Command. That's why he came out to the unit and wanted to talk to me. And at that, you've seen the movie The Men Who Stare at Goats?
Yeah.
He shoved me into the office and told the commander, I need to talk to Sergeant Buchanan, get out, He turned to me and got up in my face and said, did you kill my computers with your mind? And I thought, I have got to lie about this. I knew I had. And I could see my grandchildren paying for computers. Basically, I heard myself say, yes, sir, I did. And the grin that comes across General Hapgood's face in that movie is exactly the grin that came across Bert's face. And you can blip this out if you want. Just immediately right there in my face, he said, far fucking out if I ever got a job for you.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Who do you think tasked him initially with assembling this X-Men team of
I think he did it
remote
all on
viewers?
his own. He got all kinds of flack from that.
Really?
He really did.
So he
Yeah.
kind of went rogue a little bit.
Yeah.
Hmm. Such a fascinating world,
Oh, yeah.
all of this stuff. And I find it interesting too, because you have Hal Puthoff is one of these guys who's kind of, one of the godfathers of remote viewing.
He's great.
Amazing
He really is.
guy.
Yeah.
But then he also is at the forefront of the UFO stuff. And
Yeah.
that has to be significant, like, to me at least. I think there has to be this, like, essential overlap between these two things.
Okay. You've heard a lot of stories that when a person gets abducted, they suddenly start having psychic ability.
So, yes.
Okay. I was tasked to do a paper that as soon as I turned it in, it disappeared. I don't know if it's in that place where, that big warehouse where, at the end of the Indiana Jones movie. The task was compare and contrast our psychic ability with the ET psychic ability. And I got access to a bunch of stuff that most people will never see. But the end result of that study that I did, I had already found out that you can divide psychically the ETs into 4 different groups. There's not us and them. There's us and them and them and them and them and them and them. And you can cut them into 4 different groups, friends and enemies. And those who have more psychic ability than we have, and those who are equal or less psychic than we are. The enemies who are equal or less than we are try to stay away from here. They don't like us. Okay. The friends who are less or equal to us psychically come here for trade. And the ones who are more psychic than we are and friends want us to become psychic.
Mm.
The ones who are enemies and more psychic than we are don't want us off this planet. They'd be very happy to just wipe the planet off, kill all humans, period. And I couldn't figure out why. And this one event that I got the record of, there were 3 guys camping at a lake, and it was nighttime. They saw a UFO come, and they were standing there on the lake looking at it. It came up right over them, and all of a sudden they couldn't move. They were frozen, and they got abducted. And there was something about that sort of just made everything that I had studied before that fall together. And that is that those ETs had much more psychic ability than the humans, but no range.
Mm.
They had to be right over them in order to do anything.
Mm.
With the remote viewing, we can see across space and time like looking across the room at a stove or something,
Mm.
No different. If we develop our psychic ability, when we get out into space, we are going to be a power in the universe because we can see way into the future, anywhere in space and all that. And evidently they can't.
Mm.
And so we have that ability. That's why our friends want us out there. And our enemies don't want us off this planet.
Do you have a sense of, like, taxonomies of non-human intelligence, like the species and stuff? Because I'm not going to lie, when I speak to people when people volunteer information about this, I'm often skeptical. And then in the event in which we are, being visited by non-human intelligence, which I believe we are,
Oh, yeah.
then it's somehow obviously very important to categorize them as you just have. But can you categorize them further by they're from XYZ planet?
Oh, you mean in those 4 groups?
Yeah, I mean, like the classic thing would be like
No.
Nordic Greys, reptilians. Like
what I found it was that, like the Nordics, the Greys, and all that fit into all 4 groups. So there are Greys that hate us, Greys that like us, Greys that are more psychic than we are, Greys that couldn't view their way out of a paper bag if the top was open, and like many of us, and that there seemed to be no separating them according to type into any of those 4 groups, that at some point there are people in any of those 4 groups in any race that fit into all those 4 groups.
Have you ever seen a UFO in a hangar?
Not in a hangar. Well, in the viewing of Mount Hayes, Mount Zeal.
Have you ever seen a UFO in the possession of the American military? Not just a UFO that's flying around, in the woods somewhere or something.
The only one I've seen was in that hangar where the collision had taken place, and there was just a massive dump of debris, and that control panel was there in that debris.
And so where was this? Where did you see this?
You're back to where I can't
answer. Can't answer.
Yeah.
But so you must have had a very high clearance at the time?
Oh, yeah. I had one of the highest clearances, not only for the remote viewing, but for other stuff that I've done that will never be talked about. And I've heard that only 17 people have ever had that.
Really?
I don't know if that's true or not.
So it's basically the highest clearance you can get?
Oh, when I was given that clearance, I asked, he said, that's the highest clearance I've ever given anybody. And I said, well, what is the highest clearance? He said, oh, there is one, but nobody ever gets it. And I said, what's that? And he said, truth.
Truth. I like that.
Truth. Nobody learns the truth.
Yeah, that's funny. But you had the highest human clearance in the federal government.
I had the highest clearance of anybody I've ever met.
Okay.
And one time, Bert and I were out at lunch, and he said, what is your clearance? And I said, TSESI PSYOP. And his utensils went down, and he said, what? He said, I can't even get that.
Oh.
And so, anyway, but it was because of other work that outside of the remote viewing unit and outside of all the other that I was doing.
Well, I think that clearance needs a little bit of a rebrand for our audience. That is not PSYOP, psychological operation.
No, it's not. It's strategic integrated operation, SIOP.
SIOP.
Yeah.
So don't get any ideas.
No.
But this UFO that you saw the debris of in a hangar, did you see that in person?
Yeah.
So that wasn't a remote viewing session.
No, that wasn't a remote view. I was standing there in front of it, and
you were standing in front of a crashed UFO in a hangar.
This hangar was dealing with mid-air collisions, and so my friend was showing me around and showing me how they put the planes back together and all that, and they had these piles of rubble all over, and they were, to figure out what happened with the mid-air collision. And we passed by this one, and here was the control panel of a UFO, which I had seen and operated before. And I said, that's out of a UFO. And it echoed in this metal Quonset building. And immediately the colonel who was in charge came running out of his office and, just ran me out of the place.
A lot of questions. So you said something interesting there. You said, which I had operated before. So you knew that this was a UFO control panel because you had some prior experience with it?
I was abducted.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I was a Methodist minister in East Texas, and the Methodists they move their young preachers around from church to church to give them experience. Every year you move to a different church. And it was time to move. My family had already moved to the new parsonage.
And when you say parsonage
is where the preacher lives. It's the house where the preacher lives.
Okay.
I was cleaning out the old parsonage, got it all cleaned out. Everything was in the U-Haul. And it was late at night, and I was tired. So I made a pallet down on the living room floor and laid down, and I was wide awake. And I heard something land in the backyard. Now, this was a country church. We were over a quarter mile off the nearest road in the woods and all that. And I heard something land in the backyard. And I knew it wasn't a helicopter. It didn't sound like a helicopter. It sounded like the best example I can give is where some kid sticks a playing card into the spokes of his bicycle and you know, it was like that. And so I was going to get up and go to the back room and see what was in the backyard. I couldn't move, and I was wide awake. It wasn't sleep paralysis at all. I was wide awake. I couldn't move, and I heard somebody walking around the house to the front window looking in. And immediately I woke up, and I was sitting in a white room. There were 2 rows of seats, and I was sitting here. There was an elderly woman sitting here. I tried talking to her, and she was just frozen. And there were empty seats over here in the window. Now, when I fly, I have to have a window seat. I can't deal with being inside. You know, I have to have a window seat.
Especially on a UFO.
Well, no, in a plane, you know. And so I was sitting there, and this tall, muscled up, must have been 7 feet tall, and muscled up like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and just pale as could be, came into the room there, and I said, "Excuse me, can I sit by the window?" He got this look of fear on his face and turned around and ran out. And so a few minutes later, a little gray with 3 of these big guys huddled behind the gray for protection, you know, came in, and the gray started talking to me, and I would nod, almost going to sleep, and then wake up. Finally, the gray said, you know, "We've got work to do. Come with me." He took me up front. He was the pilot. And he had me kneel down in front of the control panel. With me kneeling down and him standing, we were eye to eye. So that tells you his size, you know. But I was watching him. He was talking. We were talking to each other and all that. We would land. The tall white guys would go out and come back in, and I guess they were picking up more people. We'd take off again, and finally he said, "We're going on a long jump now." And so we went on this thing where we didn't land for quite a while. And I said, "I've been watching. Can I try it?" And he said, "No, human hands are too small." Well, I have some very large hands. And so he said, "Put your hand up." And I put my hand up. He put his up, and his were almost the same. We were almost the same size hands. And so he said, I'll let you try. And I tried it and didn't wreck the place. I didn't wreck the thing, but he was standing right over me just in case, And so I tried it, and I learned how to do it. Anyway, we landed at some place that was not Earth, and the sky was black. The sun was out, but very dim, and looked out the window, the front window, and there were two other ships. There was a string of people going. And I asked him, what do you do here? And he said, we're a medical team. He said, we catch a lot of diseases going around space. And he said, we have no immunity, but you people are like antibody factories. We use your antibodies for health. He said, there are only three of our ships and all that. And so anyway, came our time to get off, and I filed back with the other people, and I was getting off, and they were going up this path to a pavilion that was up on the hill. He grabbed me by the arm, and he said, you don't want to go up there. And he pulled me over to the side, and we sat down on the grass on the hillside, and the grass was totally black, which I found out from somebody later. They said, well, of course it was black with no bright sun. It had to absorb different rays, and so it had to be black to absorb. I don't know. They gave me a scientific reason for it. But as we sat there, we were talking, and you could hear up on the hill, somebody would scream in horror, and everybody else would laugh. And then they'd go quiet. And then somebody else would scream in horror, and everybody would laugh and all that. And they took turns. And so I was glad I wasn't up there. But anyway, as we talked, he was answering questions, and we were talking. And I said, well, what are you implanting in us? And he was confused. He said, we don't implant anything into you. I said, well, we find these glass-like things and things like that implanted in us. He said, oh, you people won't be still. The tips of our instruments break off. And I said, well, why do you stick those? He said, because we take 1 or 2 cells of our diseased tissue, put it on that tip and implant it into you, and you will start making antibodies. And then we come back and harvest the antibodies. And he said, you people won't be still. The tips break off. And so that's what that was. So
when you say that you heard laughing and then, somebody would shout out.
The whole gang would laugh while somebody was screaming and just pain and horror.
Do you think that was like an operation going on?
They were doing something to them. I'm not sure what.
This antibody infusion?
I guess, yeah.
Or this tissue infusion that would create the antibodies?
I don't know. I wasn't up there. So, but that's what I'm guessing.
And this is once you've landed on, do you know where this other planet is?
No, I don't. I just know it wasn't Earth. I knew that.
Is the other guy, the 7-foot guy who looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger?
They were still on the ship, I guess. I was sitting there with the little gray on the hillside.
So it's like the grays and the, these like Nordic-like things are working together?
These weren't Nordics.
What were they?
They struck me as being dumb as a rock. They were just workers for the gray. I don't know what they were doing. They were going out and getting people and coming back.
How do you fly a UFO?
Well, let me go on with the story, okay?
Yeah, sure.
When everybody came back down, while we were there on the mountainside, on the hillside, the pilot said to me, I want you to meet somebody. He went off and got another one that came back, sat down on the hill behind me and said, put up your hand. So I put up my hand. He put his hand on the back of mine. And from that point on, I remembered nothing until the people were coming back down the hill, and I was in line with them getting back onto the ship. And I turned to the pilot and I said, I'd like to remember all this. And he said, well, you won't. So the next morning, I was standing at the back window of the parsonage there, looking out, could not remember why I was there. I thought, well, I've been sleepwalking or what? And was just so confused for about 5 or 6 minutes. And then I realized, oh, yeah, I'm moving to the new parsonage. So I gathered up the pallet I had made, threw it into the U-Haul, and drove off thinking I've forgotten something. Over the next 25 years, that grew and grew and grew until I couldn't leave the house without going back 5 times. What have I forgotten? What have I forgotten? And no matter where we lived. And so one day we were headed for church, and my wife was sick and tired of all this, and so she said, did you check the basement? Yes, I checked the basement. Did you check the kitchen? Did you check the stove? Did you check, and I said, yes. And she said, did you check the backyard? And when she said that, 25 years later after the event, it all came flooding back. And I remembered. And I thought, this is stupid. I've never been abducted. Come on, give me a break. But it hit me so hard, I sat down on the front steps and I just couldn't move. And so the next day, I was in the remote viewing unit by that time. The next day, I got some encrypted coordinates, just some numbers, and I gave it to all the people as a practice target. And they came back with what I had remembered.
Really?
And so I thought, telepathic overlay, they're just reading my mind. It never happened. So evidently it was Ed Dames that reported me. And the following week, I was up at the Defense Intelligence Agency, going to see the director, and the 2 men in black stepped out of a little conference room and pointed in, and I knew the routine of the men in black. And so I went in and sat down. The men in black are not aliens, okay? They're a hired professional interrogator. And the other person who sits off to the side and never says anything is the person from a unit that has questions that they give to the interrogator, and he sits over there and listens for answers. That's why he sits over there and never says anything. And so the interrogator has a list of questions. He jumbles them back and forth and, mixes them up and says them in different ways to see if you're going to trip yourself up. And so he kept asking about the control panel. And I thought when they stepped out in the hallway, I thought they want to see if somebody with my clearance has gone crazy. So I thought that's what it was in there for, but he kept asking about the control panel. And so about the 4th or 5th time he asked, I said, no, this is how you work it, and explained it. And the guy over to the side slapped his leg and said, so that's it. I looked over and I realized he's got one and didn't know how to fly it. I looked back at the interrogator and grinned. The interrogator is trained to never make an expression of any kind. But his ears started turning red. I could tell he was angry. And within 20 seconds, I was in the room by myself. They were gone. And so I thought, maybe I was abducted. I don't know. Then about a year later, I was at this facility on this other mission, met this guy that I had known way back years before in the military, found out what he did. He showed me through this hangar, and that's where I came across this pile, and I said, "That's out of a UFO," and got kicked out of there. But the minute I saw that, I thought, shit, I was abducted.
What did the control panel look like?
It has an impression of a hand on it. This one, the one in the hangar did. The one on the ship didn't. Had the impression of a hand. There are holes over it. Okay. And where you put your finger over the hole is what controls the ship.
Any sort of surface materials, metallic?
Metal, yeah.
Metal.
But
is it gray?
It's the holes. The holes. Where you stop one of the holes up, that's how they control the ship.
Was it gray or any particular color?
It was just metal, far as I remember. Yeah.
And so when you said, I think that's a control panel from a UFO, you clearly hit a nerve.
Didn't. I said, that's out of a UFO. Definite statement. That's out of a UFO. And it just echoed in that hangar. And
they got angry immediately.
Oh, yeah. They kicked me out, man. With warnings, they kicked me out. Yeah.
What were the warnings?
You don't tell this about anybody. You don't ever mention this to anybody.
Why do you feel okay talking about it now?
Because I can talk about it. I can't tell you where it is.
So no context is okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when were you abducted? What year?
It was 25 years before that, so it'd be 63, 65, somewhere around there.
Sure. And was it from your place, and were you in New Mexico at the time, or?
No, I was in Texas.
You're in Texas?
In East Texas, East Texas Church, yeah.
And did that have any transformative? You mentioned some abductees, have greater psychic powers. Did that, change you in any sort of way?
I don't think so. Like I say, growing up, when I was 12 and 15, I was all this PK stuff. And I had had some psychic experiences when I was young and all through life, but nothing astounding of any way. And then when Bert put me into the remote viewing unit, that's where I learned the controlled remote viewing to use your psychic ability to collect intelligence.
So fascinating. How long do you feel like you were on this UFO for when you were abducted?
Well, it felt like hours, and it felt like a long time.
Did you have missing time at all, like in the real world?
Well, I was there on the pallet in the living room, and the next morning I was standing at the back window looking out at the backyard. So had to be just overnight,
Did anyone in your family ask what had happened to you?
No, because when I left and went to the new parsonage, I felt like I'd forgotten something at the other parsonage, but I didn't remember any of it for 25 years.
So it was the control panel that you saw in the hangar that freaked you out and made you remember the abduction?
No, it was when my wife said, "Did you check the backyard?"
Okay.
And she was making fun of me, but when she said that, it all came back.
Really?
And so the next Monday, I went to work there at the remote viewing unit, gave them the task, and they confirmed it. I didn't believe it. The men in black confirmed it. I didn't believe it. A year later, I saw that pile of stuff in that hangar, saw the control panel, and that's when I said, shit, I was abducted.
Got it. So what, you had the flashback when your wife said, go check the backyard.
Yeah, but that was...
Why did that give you the flashback?
Evidently because when that happened, I was trying to get up and go to the backyard and see what happened, what landed. And so I didn't remember I didn't remember any of it. When I drove away from the parsonage that day to go to the new house, all I could think of was how to get to the new house, and also the feeling that, hey, I forgot something.
Did you have an implant at any point in your body afterwards that you found?
He grabbed me by the arm and he said, you don't want to go up there.
So how do you fly a UFO? Because presumably this gray sort of taught you.
He showed me the fingering and all that, and that's when I explained to the interrogator, and that's when the guy slapped his leg, he said, so that's it.
Is there some sort of mental connection?
No.
Just putting the fingers.
Just how you work the control panel. Yeah.
Because if I was the guy in the hangar, you said they had other crashed, prosaic.
Well, they had crashed airplanes.
Yeah. So if I had other crashed airplanes and I was an aerospace person and I saw a control panel and it had 5 different little holes for your fingers.
It had a bunch of holes, yeah.
So my maybe initial assumption would be that's how you fly it, but he didn't figure that out on his own.
I imagine a regular aeronautics person would think, what a piece of junk.
Yeah, or that, or they just would have no idea. So he didn't even know it was a control panel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But evidently somebody knew it was a control panel.
Because they got mad and kicked you out.
Yeah.
But it was just sitting there, kind of unattended to?
It was in a pile over to one side.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So bizarre. Do you think they had any intention of reverse engineering it?
I have no idea. We just were walking past pile of wreckage, and there was this one pile of wreckage, and there was that control panel just sitting up there.
Did you experience any sort of psychic phenomena around the metal? That sometimes occurs.
No.
Okay.
No.
It was just there.
I just saw it, and hey, that's out of a UFO.
Wow. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Has anyone else showed you a photo or a drawing of their abduction experience that looks at all like this control panel that you saw?
No, not a one. But then they never show you the inside of the ship, I don't think. I've never seen anything like that. They tell stories about their abduction and all that, but...
Did you ever come across a guy named General William Neal McCaslin?
No.
He was at Wright-Patterson?
No, I didn't.
Did you ever come across Hans Adams by any chance? The
No.
Liechtenstein royal prince? No.
No.
Okay.
No. In fact, the UFOs that I've seen a lot of UFOs. I mean, I live in Alamogordo. We see UFOs all the time. And I mean, provable UFOs. And it's gotten to where, yeah, it's a UFO. So?
Yeah.
So what? And they're here. I know it. So what? There's nothing I can do about it.
Do you think there's also a lineage of exotic propulsion that's man-made?
What my friend who did the technology transfer with one of the groups of aliens told me at one time, he said, way back when, we found that if you explode something, it moves things. It blows things away. So you can cause motion by exploding things. And that has led to the internal combustion engine and the jet plane and all that. You explode and it makes things move. He said that the group he dealt with, way back when, they found that you can move things with magnets. And that just as we have taken the fire and turned it into rockets that can go to other planets, that can go to the moon, they have taken magnetism, and over the centuries, they have developed it to where, and he said one of the things that he had seen was that we think they're so more advanced than we are. They think we're so far advanced than they are, when actually we've just advanced in two different directions. But he said that's why they're eager to trade with us.
Interesting. Because we've almost split off from them as far as our trajectories.
Yeah.
Is there anything having to do with timelines? Are they us on a different timeline sort of thing?
Not from anything I've heard him say.
Did you ever encounter any religious figures in your experience with remote viewing?
Oh, yeah.
Like who?
Yeah, but not tied with ETs or anything like that.
Were you ever tasked with looking into the Buddha or Jesus or Muhammad?
Absolutely, yeah.
Which one of those?
Two that were most meaningful to me. One time, well, I think we already mentioned that one of my fortes was mental excess. And so I was tasked a lot of times with doing personality profiles, or even deeper than that, getting the plans and intentions of foreign leaders. And personality profile is just where you give a personality profile of. So I went over one day and they said, we have a personality profile for you. And they gave me the coordinates. And just almost immediately, I said, this isn't one of the bad guys. And my monitor said, well, you're tasked with it. Go ahead and do the session. By the end of that session, I was just feeling like I was glowing. And my entire summary on that session was, whatever evil you think this guy did, he didn't do it. This is a good guy. And in that session, I found myself, again, with the perfect side integration. I was standing there, and this little Jewish-looking guy was standing in front of me in a modern business suit. And we didn't talk so much as just, related to each other and all that. And I felt just dirty in front of this guy. And basically what he let me know was, whatever evil you've done, I've seen a whole lot worse. Whatever good you've done, I've seen a whole lot better. And I don't care. I like you anyway. And when I came out of the session, that's what I knew. But what I wrote was, whatever evil you think this guy did, he didn't do it. This is a good guy. And that's when the monitor opened the envelope, and our director had written the word Jesus on it. So I cannot say I physically met Jesus, but I have had the experience of it, and it changed my life. It really did.
What did you feel when you were in his presence?
Oh, I felt dirty. I felt so dirty. I felt so guilty of myself and everything else. I felt,
But you felt loved?
Huh?
Did you also feel love?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. When he said, I don't care, he said, I love you anyway, And
why was he, you don't think of Jesus in a, business suit. Why do you think he was?
I think that was a way of saying he's not thing out of the past and, wearing robes and all that. He's here today. That's the only interpretation I can get of that.
Did he look like Jesus is traditionally depicted?
No,
long hair?
nowhere near. No. I mean, this looked like a short little Jewish guy. Yeah.
Where was he? And what was he just kind of?
He was just standing there in front of me. Yeah.
In like hyperspace or in a room or?
In a room.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was all dark in the room, but we were there,
Wow.
And
did you ever remote view any other religious figures or mystics?
One other time, they had done this with Bill Ray, and they did it with me. They probably did it with all the others. I was to do just a target. They didn't even say personality profile or anything like that. And I found myself surrounded by total darkness, but I was standing in some light. I couldn't figure out where the light was coming from. And I heard this voice that said, welcome to me and all that. And I said, well, what am I doing here? It said, you're here to learn. And I said, okay, what am I supposed to learn? And there was no answer. And I said, well, look, give me something. And the voice said, I've given you everything you need. What I give you now, I give through you, not to you. And when I came out of the session and they opened the envelope, it said God.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you see God?
I didn't, but I heard the voice clearly. From now on, everything I give you, I give through you, not to you.
What did you feel in God's presence?
Oh, total confusion. I was thinking, hey, I've got a target. I've got to write a report on this, But
did you feel awestruck?
No, I was in an empty room hearing a voice.
Did you feel love?
Not really. The voice was, just more friendly than you'd ever know, and kind and all that.
Do you think you actually spoke to God?
I think God spoke to me. Yeah. And I think what I was there to learn was, from now on, I give through you, not to you. Yeah.
Do you think on the remote viewing program, anybody ever engaged in sort of deception or trickery, or do you think it was always pretty straightforward? They gave you a target.
Well, we had constructive trickery. I know one time we had one of the viewers go over, and one of the things you have to learn in remote viewing is how to overcome pollution. And so we were never supposed to pollute each other. But you don't learn how to overcome pollution by not facing it. And so one time, one of the viewers was going over, and he'd been having trouble with fighting pollution. And so we had the coffee pot, and he always got coffee to take over with him to the other building when he did a session. And it was a practice session. And so I went up and got my coffee at the same time. And right as he finished fixing his coffee and turned to go away, I said, oh, by the way, your target today is probably not the Eiffel Tower. And I turned and walked away back to my desk and left him standing there having to fight the Eiffel Tower. And we would do things like that to each other,
Why do you think they asked you to remote view God and Jesus?
It was, I think, something they did for all of us.
Why?
Bill Ray, they had him remote view Buddha, and that was a life-changing experience for him. And I think they did that to all of us, just to give us the experience. Many of the targets we got were to gain experience in how to view things.
Did you view anything historical that they want? Like, did they ever say, look at the French Revolution or look at the,
We did those because there was feedback. They wouldn't give us targets for which there was no feedback.
What's an example?
You can't judge.
What's an example of a famous historical event that you remote viewed?
Oh, things like Joan of Arc. Oh,
what did Joan
Napoleon.
of Arc? What did those two look like?
Oh, Joan of Arc. Different parts of her life. We also just events in history, historical places.
What was Napoleon like?
Napoleon was just egotistical like you wouldn't believe. I mean, he was God's favorite in all this, and he was his own hero.
Is there anything you can say about Napoleon that isn't conventionally known, but that you learned through your remote viewing of him?
I'm not sure what's conventionally known.
Well, I think people think of him as like this, chip on his shoulder because his dad was...
did he?
Yeah, because his dad was a Corsican governor, so that was off the coast of France, and, he didn't...
Well, the one thing that I really know about him is the time that he had the War of the Rabbits. Have you heard of that one?
No.
It was a celebration of some big event that he did. And so he was going to have all of his generals come out to do a rabbit hunt, a wild rabbit hunt. And they couldn't find enough rabbits, so they got all these tame rabbits from rabbit raisers and all that. And right before the event, they let them loose in the woods. Well, the rabbits saw the humans and thought, oh, feeding time. And so all the rabbits ran toward the generals and just swarmed the generals, and the generals started running, and Napoleon himself had to jump into his cart. There were hundreds of them, had to jump into his cart, into his carriage. And as the carriage went away, he was throwing rabbits out the window. He lost the war to the rabbits.
Whoa. Is this documented?
Yeah, it's documented.
And you saw it?
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. And I give it now as a target to my students, yeah.
What's the most disturbing thing you've ever seen historically?
Oh, historically?
Or not historically.
Yeah.
Could have been contemporary or historical.
There are a lot of inhumanities that humans do. And I know a lot of police work. Finding missing children. I have a lot of students who come and they say, well, I want to help find missing children. And I warn them ahead of time. In order to do that, you're going to have to experience where the children are, what they're going through and all that. And you're going to actually experience children being molested, killed, chopped into pieces, and buried across acres of land. Do you really want to do that? And I always tell beginning students, do not get involved in this until you're highly, highly trained, because it can mess you up emotionally like you wouldn't believe.
Highly trained and highly desensitized. I don't know how anybody wouldn't be, broken into many pieces emotionally.
Oh, yeah. It can be.
Jesus.
Really bad, yeah.
All right. Well, We got to take it to a more positive place after that.
Yeah.
What about all these missing scientists? Have you looked into any of them? So I mentioned Neil
I haven't
McCaslin.
been tasked with it, so I haven't done it. Yeah.
Could I task you with it?
Yeah, you can. We won't have any feedback for who knows how long.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk after this.
All right.
Do you have has anybody tasked you with anything on this hantavirus? This, like, people are worried about this COVID 2.0 virus that's seems like it's caused some issues on this cruise ship, and people think it might cause another pandemic.
Not directly on that. Back in 1998, I was tasked with viewing the future of the U.S. It wound up I viewed the future of the world up through the year 2050. And I turned in this whole long list of changes that were going to happen, and I have watched them come true one after another after another. And just glossing over everything, we're going down. I mean,
Really?
It's going to be some hard times that's going to result in quite a bit of warfare, quite a bit of one of the things it pointed out was killing off of 75% of the world population.
What?
75%.
With what?
Man-made disasters like earthquakes and so on. Also, it gave a list of other things. But what I found was that by the year about 2040, there will be almost no centralized government. We will be an agrarian society. Any goods that we can't make for ourselves or grow for ourselves will be delivered, and there will be almost no social interaction with the few people that are left except through technology. And one of the things was you can make your own tools. And I thought, how in the world can you make your own tools? In 1998, they didn't have 3D printers. And yet I saw people just going to this machine and making their own tools.
Well, this sounds terrible.
Okay.
But earlier you mentioned that we are bound to be a spacefaring species, and the only way to do that is to have one world government.
Mm-hmm.
But in this sort of prophecy, it feels like there's no central government. So how do those two?
I think it's going to wind up after that. So I don't think we're going to get into space until around 2080 or even afterwards.
Okay. And when you say into space, because we're technically in space now, you mean?
Well, we're technically in space, but I mean into space as a community of the space, of space.
Yeah.
I mean, right now we can go to the moon. Maybe we can go to Mars. That's it.
If humans can bilocate with their consciousness, do you think there's a secret space program, which has a ridiculous connotation? But do you think there is a secret space program involving human consciousness where humans bilocate systematically to other planets?
Yes.
You're smiling.
I think so. Yes.
Do you think so, or do you know so?
I'm not involved.
Okay. Sounds like you might know so, but
but have we done that? Yeah, I've done that. Yeah.
You've done that.
But
outside of just
there is an effort, I'm not involved.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Fascinating.
But is it possible? Yeah, been there, done that. But
well, I was just thinking. You said
didn't get the T-shirt.
Fair enough. Well, no gift shop. Well, you mentioned your Mars story, and then I'm thinking in my head, if you can systematically do that, and there's stories that go back to 17th century Swedish mystic Emanuel Swedenborg, saying he went to other planets and coming back. If there is a science behind that,
there is, and I didn't mention that there's also what they're calling remote influencing, which is actually a form of remote persuasion, but you can mentally interact telepathically with others, pass messages back and forth and all that. We've learned how to do that.
Wow.
It's not hard. Whether that's people on Earth or beings on another planet, it's actually very easy to do. At the extreme highest levels of CRV, yeah.
Have you ever worked with a guy who supposedly ran the CIA Weird Desk, Kit Green?
Oh, I know of Kit Green.
Okay. Have you ever been experimented with vis-a-vis radiation to see if that would affect your psychic abilities?
Oh, for that?
Yeah.
No, for that, but we can detect radiation quite easily. Not only, like particle weapons and all that, or radiation like, uranium and radium and all that, but also just transmitters, radio transmitters. It's very possible, like if the enemy in the field is transmitting, we know generally what their frequency band is because we know what frequency bands the other country uses. Okay? But you can say to a remote viewer, remote view this thing, and you'll come up and see something sticking up a pole or something like that. And it's glowing. Let's say you take the visible spectrum and spread it out over their radio frequency spectrum they have, and you look for the blue-green. Now you know what frequency they're transmitting on. You tune your radio to that frequency, and you intercept their traffic.
It's interesting that areas of high entropy and nuclear are easier to remote view. Because I think of the UFO nuclear connection. Yeah. And it seems like UFOs show up around nukes and areas of high entropy, and it almost feels like they do cleanup jobs around Chernobyl and Fukushima.
I've written a paper about that if it's true, shows that it has nothing to do with that at all as to why they show up.
So why do they show up?
I don't even know if there's a short elevator method of saying this. Space-time continuum, okay? Time is a part of space-time continuum. Space is three-dimensional. Time has got to be three-dimensional too.
People think of it as the fourth dimension.
It's not. It is a part of three-dimensional space, time, okay? Therefore, let's say that, you know how in ancient times the sun went around the earth and the heavens went around the earth and we were the center of everything, right?
Yes.
We look at time the same way. We're here and time comes toward us and it goes past us and all that. Bullcrap. Time is a part of the space-time continuum. It's linear because we're going through it. Okay? So if there's a disturbance in space-time continuum out here, as we go toward it, we can get, some of the waves of it coming. Therefore, we can see what we call our future. We're just picking up on where we are in the space-time continuum as we go through it. We can look into the past and see what was there. But space-time, time itself, stands still, and we're passing through it. Therefore, if there's some big disturbance in the space-time continuum, we will be attracted to it. some other people going through the space-time continuum in another way will also be attracted to it, and it's like two trains coming into the train station at the same time, and their Bigfoot pops in, and then Bigfoot disappears because we go on.
So the disturbance creates some sort of inward pull between timelines.
Yeah.
And you get a collision of
worlds.
worlds.
When we cross at the same time, we see a portal open. We see a UFO suddenly pop into existence and suddenly pop out and things like that.
You remote viewed Chernobyl.
Oh, yeah, ahead of time. Yeah. 3 days before it happened.
You predicted it.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And what did people say?
Oh, the task on that was describe what's going to be on the headlines in the Sunday paper. That was on Friday. What I got was the Chernobyl meltdown. Well, Iceland detected the radiation cloud coming over on Tuesday, and Tuesday was when the news came out about Chernobyl. And therefore, the Sunday paper did not have the Chernobyl event in it, even though it had already happened. And so I got a 0 because I was wrong.
Wow. Well, I think you got it right. But
yeah, I got it right. Described everything, even the purpose, how it happened, and everything else. But
when you say the purpose, or like what caused it?
What caused it?
Yeah.
And also the purpose. There was a purpose.
What was the purpose?
6 tons of fissionable material that was at the plant, not in the reactors, but it was at the plant, was missing, has been missing, and is unaccounted for.
Whoa. Where do you think it's at?
I know where it's at.
You can't say.
I won't say, but yeah, I know where it's at. But it was,
So you think that was a little, intentional job being done?
I think so.
Not just a little meltdown.
No, no.
Whoa.
Yeah. But yeah, it's.
And your conviction level on that is
really high.
Over 90.
Yeah.
Close to 100?
Yeah. Close to 100, yeah.
Does anybody else in open source world believe this? Like
I think
theorize?
so, yeah.
Okay. So other people talk about
nobody can account for the missing stockpile that was there and is no longer there.
Wow.
Yeah.
I got to look into that.
Yeah.
You also were tasked with looking into a Russian death ray?
Yeah. The Russians were developing a particle beam weapon at Semipalatinsk. And so somebody in one of our science groups or something wanted to know what happens inside the beam. Well, on a particle beam weapon, you can't stick an instrument inside to find out what's happening because it vaporizes it immediately. So somebody had the genius idea of sticking a remote viewer into the beam. And so they came out and they told us ahead of time, and I thought, that'd be neat. So I volunteered for it. And we worked it to the point where I had the perfect side integration. I was standing there in front of this beam and I stepped into it. And when I did, even time itself is messed up inside that beam. And the whole list of experiences just were phenomenal. One of the things was, it was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. Just the colors and everything else. But what I got was that the particles in the beam are not shooting straight. like light does. They swirl as they go. And that was what the scientists wanted to know, and so that was the part that they accepted back. All the other experiences were just mine that I had, and I don't think anybody cared.
So some of your remote viewing was in the service of fundamental science espionage.
Well, you do what you're tasked to do. Yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Your fellow remote viewer who was highly skilled, who we mentioned earlier in this interview, Pat Price, died in a very mysterious way.
I never met him. Yeah.
You never met him. Do you have any theories as to why he died? Or some people think that maybe he was killed. I think Hal Puthoff has publicly speculated about that.
Yeah. I've heard other stories from people who were there who tell a different story from the story that's published. And also, I've heard that a couple of years later, he was seen in a department store in Washington, D.C. And the head of the Department of Security years later said, Pat Price died, and we haven't heard from him since.
Whoa. Yeah, that's a little coded message there.
Oh, yeah, huh?
Interesting.
So,
so you think he might still be alive or lived for a while after that?
They say he was cremated and all that, but I've heard that the ambulance that picked him up was an unmarked ambulance, drove away, and his body was never seen since.
Why do you
to
think
his family or anybody?
That's crazy. Why do you think that the U.S. hasn't gone back to the moon? We just had the Artemis mission where we sort of flew around the moon, but since 1972, since Apollo 17, I believe, we have not gone back to the moon.
And I have no idea. I think we should go back.
What do you think happens with the future of UFO disclosure? Do you think in 20, 30 years, it sounds like you are predicting some calamities and some catastrophe, some population reduction.
Well, not dealing with UFOs and the ETs.
No, I know.
We're going to do that to ourselves.
Yeah, which that sucks. But alongside that, it does feel like right now there's a lot of momentum behind UFO disclosure.
I think the disclosure is going to come out. Yeah.
You do.
Yeah.
And so, what do you think the world looks like on that dimension in 20 years? Do you think it's like academia is teaching UFO classes and, these are the alien races that are visiting us, that sort of thing?
That could be. I think we will get exposure to the ETs, physical exposure to the ETs within several years. But
you do.
For us to be in space and join the community out there, that's going to take a long time.
But you think they're going to reveal their presence in a more kind of widespread, obvious way?
I think so.
Near term?
Yeah.
Next few years?
I think they're already doing that, yeah.
Okay.
And, if you were out there, would you want the Earth people coming out and dealing with them? I wouldn't.
I don't know. It sort of depends on a million different factors. But if you were some super, pure, ancient and advanced race of beings, maybe you wouldn't want to deal with the little chimps.
Like I say, they've advanced in a different direction. I wouldn't say they're more advanced.
Sure.
Not all of them, yeah.
Yeah. How do you reconcile your kind of religious inclinations with all of this UFO and alien knowledge?
I see no problem with it. I think you would be an absolute idiot to believe that on 400 quintillion planets that exist, this is the only one that has life? Come on. And you would limit God to that? Come on.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. All of God's creations,
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think it's so disruptive. People are talking about
I don't either.
pastors getting sort of, spoken to by these intel people who are worried that it's going to cause a lot of disruption. It's like, well, who cares? Just be a normal,
right.
rational person about it. And,
Yeah.
if you're religious, great. If you're not, that's
Yeah.
fine,
Well, being spoken to about it, I think, is an interpretation. Like people say the men in black, they threaten you at the end. They don't. They tell you, you shouldn't talk about this to anybody. And after you've sat there, one of the things when you're being interviewed by the men in black is you're going to start trying to make jokes. They're not going to respond. No humor, period. And so all of a sudden you're getting defensive. You're getting, and all that. And so when they say you shouldn't talk this, you take it as a threat. They're just telling you shouldn't talk about this to anybody. That's all they're saying,
Yeah. Would you say you're generally clairvoyant and sort of you have like a psychic propensity beyond just the remote viewing training? I mean, it sounds like it given your childhood. Yeah.
Yeah, I always have had, yeah.
Do you pick up anything about me?
Not really. One of the things that you learn to do in the controlled remote viewing is turn it off. We have a thing called the ambiance exercise. The ambiance exercise makes you sensitive to the world around you. The ninjas have a thing called Sakeno Jutsu, where you're aware of everything in 360 degrees around you. We developed that with the ambiance exercise. And it gets to where you can't go to a restaurant, you can't go to a church, you can't be around people. You just, it's just bombards you.
Hypersensitive.
Yeah, and so you learn with step 16, you learn to turn it off. And there are 20 steps in all in the training of it. And you learn to turn it off. And somebody will we'll be in conversation with somebody and they'll forget a word or something like that, and I go dip and supply the word to them or something like that. And, or they'll forget a fact and I can dip in real quick and remind them of, and they say, oh yeah, I remember now. Yeah. But, you can help people that way. And, somebody needs cheering up. You can get to their subconscious and cheer them up. But other than that, I find it very distasteful to get into other people's mind.
Yeah.
I just, I don't do it.
Do you have any advice for me or for audience members who want to get deeper on the UFO stuff? They want to understand more kind of discrete truths, what's actually going on? Because you hear all these differing things that are often mutually exclusive.
Oh, yeah.
From a whole cast of, motley crew of characters. Is there a source that you really trust when it comes to UFO stuff?
Oh, a few. But they're individuals.
Who are they?
I'm not going to say that.
They're not public? They're not public. They're private.
Oh, absolutely not.
Okay.
Like, my friend that was in charge of the technology transfer, I'll never give his name.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Who's in charge of technology transfer from the ETs?
From one of the ETs.
Wow.
From one of the groups of ETs.
Would you ever know it with him? Was he just like kind of a humble, like under the radar?
No, I'd go visit him and he'd say, Lynn, you got to come see my new toys. Yeah.
Why do you think he was so open with you about all this stuff? Presumably he kept it secret.
Oh, he basically knew who I was and my background and all that. So
he knew your high-level clearances and your history.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's fascinating. Well, I want to know more. I really.
Everybody does.
Yeah.
Oh.
Do you think that the public has a right to know more? Do you think it's at all destabilizing, or there's like a reason to slow it down? Like
they say,
why not?
They say when in doubt, classify, and so too much gets classified.
I agree.
And
like, why can't we know about the ET tech transfer program? That sounds awesome.
Yeah. And, you know, all you hear is wild rumors about it. Like, who invented Velcro, you know? And the thing is that for a lot of things, you don't want the public involved. They just mess everything up. Other things is you don't want sometimes religion involved or politics involved or whatever. And for another thing, many times it wouldn't do any good for whether people know it or not. And, you know, some of the secret stuff that's kept secret is wonderful. Everybody should know about it. There are other stuffs that I hope nobody ever finds out about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, to anybody who thinks that nothing should be classified, I mean, that's ridiculous. Like, atomic trade secrets should obviously be classified. You know, honestly, if, you know, to the extent that, like, at the higher levels of remote viewing ability, you can do damage to other people, I would hope that never comes out. I mean, that's a really scary prospect.
And, you know, like they said in World War II, loose lips sink ships.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Lynn, I really appreciate this, man. This was a lot of fun. It was very kind of comprehensive.
I think we kind of went all over the place here, but
we did.
I enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah, and I have ADD, so and I love talking to you too.
Okay.
So no, this was an absolute blast. You're full of knowledge and insights.
I've enjoyed this. Well, I'd like to plug my book, which is The Seventh Sense. By me.
Get it on Amazon.
On Amazon. And the sixth sense is your ambiance, what you feel in the room around you. That's a real sense.
How you feeling?
The seventh sense is when I can feel what's going on in the Kremlin.
Wow.
And that's your seventh sense. But also on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram, I have a growing series of short little 3-minute things that explain all the aspects of controlled remote viewing and all that.
That's awesome. Is it just at Lyn Buchanan, or what? Do you know what the handle is?
It's Inside Remote Viewing, all one word.
Check out
Inside Remote Viewing.
Check out Inside Remote Viewing.
Yeah.
TikTok, Instagram,
right?
X, maybe Twitter.
Oh no, just those three.
Okay, check out TikTok, Instagram, YouTube at Inside
Remote Viewing.
Inside Remote Viewing. Check it out.
Also, I have a course that I teach online, and it's the full course of the remote viewing, controlled remote viewing, created by Ingo Swann and used by the military for all those years for intelligence collection, now being used for businesses, for police work, for institutions, for research and development.
What's that website?
It's CRV, IEWER, CRviewer.com.
CRviewer.com. Check it out. And you told me off air that some of your students are getting amazing results akin to or better than some of your past
Some of them are doing
colleagues.
better than we ever did in the military.
That's amazing.
It's amazing. And the course is on a course platform, educational platform called Kajabi. You get permanent access to it when you sign up. I don't believe in any of this stuff of, every 6 months you pay for I don't believe in that. You get permanent access, and we have webinars where we go over people's work. We talk about things that aren't in the course and things like that.
If levels 6 through, I forgot what it was, 11 are, kind of classified, but you were given access to that, how are people in the civilian world able to
I give access to stages 1 through 7.
So how do they get better results with that than the higher?
They're getting more accurate than we were.
Hmm.
It's amazing.
But you were saying that, some of the more, kind of spooky stuff goes on at levels 7 through higher.
Level 8 through 18, yeah. And that's not taught to the public.
Okay. But pure accuracy, all you need is 1 through 7, and you can get more accurate than people who know 1 through 18.
But not the same kind of information.
Got it. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just want to clarify there.
Yeah.
Leave no stone unturned.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Lynn. Well, I appreciate this. This was awesome. I really appreciate all you. You have an amazing history.
Hey, it's an honor being invited. Thank you very much.
Oh, it's an honor to have you. I'm just, measly interviewer.
I'm glad to finally meet you too.
Well, likewise, man. No, this is a full circle moment. You were really gonna be, and I'm glad because I didn't know much at the time, but you were gonna be the first American Alchemist, and now I know so much more, and
good.
so that we can have a better conversation. But this is a full circle moment. It's very cool.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Alchemist, did you enjoy that? Well, here's the thing. That episode was just the tip of the iceberg. If you want the full picture, head over to the American Alchemy magazine we just launched on Substack. That's where we deep dive into all sorts of crazy topics that we don't have time to fit into every video, with weekly articles exploring all of the strange, forgotten, and conspiratorial corners of space, history, and high weirdness. So join up today at our free or paid tiers on Substack. I am including the full link in the description of this video.